Welcome to the Chamber Spotlight, a local talk show podcast brought to you by the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce in association with the local scene. We'll be recording on a regular basis and we'll cover many topics that span local businesses, local elections, local town governance, and a citizens' academy. Today is December 1st. Can you believe that?
Already?
December 1st. I'm your host, Fraser Townley, and today I'm sitting down with Sue Glauben. Got that right, haven't I? Okay.
Thank you, Fraser.
And Andy Wandell from the town. And today we're going to be discussing planning, ZBA, 40B, ADUs. We'll have an open conversation. But before we do that, Sue, I believe you have you're going to be reading our town headlines today. So welcome to the podcast.
Great. Thank you. Pleasure to be here. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is public meetings. The advisory committee will be meeting Monday, December 1st. On their agenda is to meet with Town Manager Bill Chenard for an overview of the budget process. The Select Board will be meeting Wednesday, December 3rd. Their anticipated agenda items are for outdoor entertainment license for the Town Tavern and a possible vote on a request from the Affordable Housing Committee for land donation on Chapel Street for Habitat for Humanity. The Planning Board will be meeting Monday, December 8th. And a reminder that a majority of these meetings are broadcast live on Local Scene. Meetings can be rewatched on www.thelocalscene.media/Pembroke/. Next is miscellaneous news. Pembroke High School Thespian Troupe 7127 presents Seussical. Seussical will feature 25 of our talented high schoolers and a Whoville chorus of elementary schoolers. Performances will be held December 4th and 5th at 7 p.m. and December 6th at 2 p.m. Tickets can be reserved by calling the Pembroke High School Music Office at 781-293-9281, extension 2128. The Pembroke Police Toy Drive has changed locations. This year, their toy drive will be this Saturday, December 6th, at the Hatch Building, next to the Community Center. Please bring an unwrapped toy for the younger kids, and gift cards for older kids are always accepted as well. Pembroke tree lighting will be on Saturday, December 6th, from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Please note, this is a free event, but there are vendors and concessions that are cash only. More information can be found at pembroketreelighting.com. Following the Pembroke tree lighting, there will be the 14th annual Winter Lights 5K. The course begins and ends at the Pembroke Community Center. Runners can register at southshorerace.com. Property tax exemption applications are currently being accepted. For additional information, please contact the Assessor's Office at 781-293-2393. Water bills have been mailed to all households. Payments are due this Wednesday, December 3rd by 4:30 p.m. Any payments made after their due date are subject to late fees. Please contact the Collector's Office at 781-293-2671 with any questions regarding your municipal bills. A reminder from the Council on Aging in the event of inclement weather. If Pembroke Public Schools are closed due to weather, all transportation services, medical and van, and senior programming will be canceled. If the town hall is closed due to bad weather, the senior center will also be closed. Updates can be found on WATD 95.9 FM or check the town's website and Facebook pages. Thank you.
Terrific, Sue. That was really good. Well done.
Thank you.
Did you rehearse?
Yes.
That's not true because you only got that today. So you did a fantastic job. Well done.
Thank you.
But we're going to give you a break. So we'll start with you, Andy.
Okay.
Andy, so we've got... Right now, Sue's here. She's an employee of the town. You're an elected official. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And so what's the difference?
Well, she gets paid. I'm a volunteer.
Okay. Right, but you're elected as opposed to an appointed position.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And how long have you been doing this now? Because this is not your first rodeo, is it?
It's about 19 years.
19?
Yeah.
Oh.
2027.
That's a lot longer than I thought.
2027 will be, we're approaching my 19th year. So 2027 will be 20 years on the planning board.
Uh-huh. No term limits?
Unfortunately, no.
Why is that unfortunate?
Well, the planning board is a 5-year term. Okay.
Right.
So, and I've always thought that the 5 years was actually a good thing because in 5 years, you see a lot of different projects come before you. Mm-hmm. So whether it be a site plan, which we have many of, or whether it's a subdivision for a new development, or maybe it's a Form A lot or something like that. Maybe there's some bylaw changes, zoning bylaw changes that are proposed. You get to see a lot of different things in 5 years. And I would say that it took me the first 10 to even dare to open my mouth at a meeting because there's so much to learn. I really had to observe and learn a lot. Don't forget, we only meet twice a month, so we don't get a lot of time doing this, and we are volunteers, so it doesn't take up, all of our time. We've got lives, we do other things. But over time, you generate a fair amount of experience. So as you start to see things, you're better able to make judgments on them quicker. So having an experienced voice on the board, I think, is important. And I think it's also important to get new people involved as well, because they can bring some different perspectives. I know a lot of times, we'll be in a meeting and, I'll kind of know what's going on and I'll feel very confident about it. But then, one of our newer members will come up with a great question that maybe I wasn't thinking of, or a different approach, or a different look at the same situation. So I definitely appreciate that. I think we have a great board right now. I think Sue would concur. We have really good folks on the board.
Nodding ahead.
Oh, good.
For the listeners.
Absolutely.
She does concur.
So I think we got a great team of people, and Sue has been terrific to work with. She's the backbone of what we do. There's a lot of information that we need to go through before a public hearing or before a meeting, and to have the right materials before us is extremely important. It's also important to be transparent, right? So all of these are public records. They should all be available easily to the public. And Sue has done a terrific job of getting these plans up on the website well in advance of any of our hearings or meetings. So if you want to take a look, you can go to the planning board site on the Pembroke.org site, Town of Pembroke, and you can go to the planning board and take a look at applications received. And there you'll find very detailed plans for anything that we're considering. And, take the time to take a look at them. If you want to do so, don't rely on social media for information about a lot of this stuff, especially when we have such good information available to you, right? So I would encourage folks, if they're interested in what's going on with building in Pembroke or housing in Pembroke, that they take the opportunity to go and look for the information there. There's plenty of it.
Yeah, listen, having been on the ZBA, I'm aware of the data and the information that is online, but it never fails to amaze me when people, and it is social media, let's be honest, they sit and they grumble and they moan, and why weren't we told, and where do we get this information? It's all there. It's all there. Incidentally, it's interesting. We had Linda Peterson and Tracy Marino on the podcast, maybe it was several podcasts ago. And Tracy was talking about the anxiety that's caused by social media. Linda has the same anxiety. She has exactly the same anxiety. She's not on Facebook. She doesn't have any social media whatsoever, but she shares the same anxiety. So I do know the anxiety that's caused by social media, but it's interesting that those anxieties are shared whether you're on Facebook or not.
Well, I think part of it is that sometimes, and we can't expect people to know what we know, right? Because we're involved in it on a regular basis, and we've been elected to be part of this. So it's not unusual for folks not to understand things about site plan or a subdivision or rules and regulations or zoning bylaws. The information's there for them to go and learn about it, of course, but it's just not something that people day to day are concerned with. So I can definitely understand how if people don't know some of the things that we know, that they would be nervous about a project, or they'd be apprehensive about a project, or they'd think about the worst first. But the more you learn about it, the easier it becomes to accept some change. What I don't appreciate kind of is people coming at us and expecting us to make a decision based on what they want when we really can't make that decision based on how we're constrained by statute, we're constrained by zoning bylaws. We have to do the right thing for the town as a whole, and not just individuals within the town. And again, we're volunteers. We do our best. We take the time to consider these projects, and we are doing the best that we can. We are lay people. We're not experts. We do depend on experts to come in to our hearings. So, for instance, we do rigorous peer review engineering for all of the projects. Matter of fact, applicants have to pay a pretty sizable sum of money for those consultants to come in and do the peer review of these projects. We do depend on, there are lawyers who sometimes represent an applicant. We have town council that represents us. So we are considering experts all the time to help us make the right decisions. But we do have the best interests of Pembroke in mind when we make these decisions. We're not looking for a project to upset people. We have to allow people to exercise their private property rights, and we're here to help them do that in the best possible way for the town of Pembroke.
Mm-hmm. And I 100% agree with what you're saying. And it's my experience that, well, let's not talk about my experience. Let's move to you, Sue. So, Sue, you've heard what Andy has to say. Mm-hmm. Tell me about being an employee as opposed to an elected official.
So like Andy said, a lot of my work is behind the scenes, just getting everything ready for the public hearings, notifying the abutters for as far as site plans and subdivisions, notifying the abutters via certified mail, making sure that it's in the newspaper, within the time allowed, and then just making sure that they have all of their information prior to the meeting. Anything that we receive, submissions, peer review comments, everything goes to the board members prior, so they're prepared. And like Andy said, I make sure that I put it on the website, so if anyone wants to, view that prior. And then kind of backing up from what you said earlier, Andy, as far as, residents going on the town's website to view information, if you sign up for notifications under like the planning board, anytime I post something, you're going to get a notification. So you're going to see that I just posted something for a site plan or a subdivision or so forth.
That's excellent.
Yes. And then just making sure that I'm ready for them, making sure that the applicant is ready, they have everything they need, posting the public notice. So just being prepared for both the applicant and the board members.
And this is on the planning board and the ZBA.
Correct.
You've got two roles.
Correct.
So Andy's just planning board, correct? And you're the chairman of the planning board.
That's correct.
Okay. How many members on the planning board?
7.
7. Okay. And they're all elected?
All elected.
There you go. And you're one. Carrying a lot of weight here.
But to Andy's point, I have great board members for both zoning and planning.
Right.
Like I'm very lucky.
Uh-huh. You have another role, though, in town. Is that correct?
I do. So I've been with planning and zoning for 2 years, and then I just moved over to the water department in September.
Mm-hmm. And what do you do for the water department?
I'm the admin to the water superintendent, Dan Sullivan, just billing and, customer service, phone calls, still learning.
Right. You don't do customer service for the planning or the ZBA.
Oh, I do that too.
I was going to say.
Absolutely, she does.
I was feeding the
Yes.
feeding the witness.
Yes.
Good.
Customer service all around, which actually I love. I come from a long line of customer service experience, and I feel it's really important in any job that you do, any resident that comes in. I want to make sure that they have what they need and we answer their questions to the best of our ability.
Yeah. But do you rely on the boards for support in that regard, or do you feel you're the front line and only line?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Of course.
So I often call Andy my lifeline. So I answer to the best of my ability, but if I'm unsure, I go downstairs and visit Andy.
Yeah. What are some of the trickier questions that you get?
Ooh. Oh boy.
When do you go
Why are
to
you allowing
Andy?
that project to go forward?
Yeah. Yes.
That's a really interesting question, Andy, because I know I've heard that question being asked many times, both from ZBA, but also listening to the meetings. I like to watch the meetings. There's quite a bit of info that comes through. A lot of the time, you're not actually granting permission. You're just sticking to the rules. You're applying the law like a judge would do. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, there are some. We do have some discretion, however. All right, so we have we can waive some of the rules if either they don't apply. For instance, we require a licensed landscaped architect plan for a lot of site plans. Sometimes that's just not practical, so we'll waive that. Other times there may be a traffic study requirement, but the use that's being applied for has very little traffic related to it. So it really doesn't make sense to have the applicant go through the expense of a traffic study. On the other hand, would
that be in an industrial situation or just residential?
Any of our business zones. I mean, residential, if you have a very large subdivision going in.
Right, of course.
And there's going to be a lot of units. Yeah, we would require a traffic study for that, certainly.
Yeah.
Yep, because we want to see what the impact of residential would be. Now, the impact of residential on traffic is very modest. I mean, I've been, again, around for 20 years, and I've seen a lot of subdivisions and some larger projects in town. And very rarely, I mean, I haven't seen a situation yet where there was a significant net increase in traffic because there's only like 2 or 3 trips a day per home, right? When people come and people go. However, if it's another project that may require like a shopping center or maybe a large supermarket, that traffic pattern is going to be affected significantly with many, many trips during the day. So, a traffic study is more than warranted. But another important thing about traffic studies aren't done to prevent a project from happening.
Yeah.
At the most, maybe we would consider the scale of the project, but, these are commercial businesses. We can't really, we don't want to tell them that they can't have as much traffic as possible. We want them to succeed. The traffic study is really done to understand what the impact of that traffic will be on the surrounding roads and the surrounding area. So we want to understand what that impact is so we can either manage for it with better infrastructure or we can, not be surprised at the result. We don't want to be surprised at it.
Yeah.
So, traffic studies aren't done as a preventative measure, if you will, to say, hey, this project's too big. They're really done to understand the impact of what that traffic will be and see if we can mitigate any of it other ways.
I remember there was a public meeting for the public safety building when it was being proposed, not when it was voted in for. And I remember somebody stood up and complained that the combined public safety building that's going on Barker and 53, and they said, "Oh, don't you know that's a dangerous intersection?" And I remember speaking up and saying, "If it's a dangerous intersection, let's fix it. make it the excuse or the reason for not moving forward.
That's an excellent example of what site plan review does. Okay. So yeah, I had my reservations about that intersection very much so when that was first identified as a site for that use. It was a difficult site for many years. But however, that's what the engineers are for. Mm-hmm. They redesigned the traffic flow on and off of the property. That's something else that we tend to look at seriously. So if you're looking at a large, shopping center, let's say, by the North River Plaza, you've got a lot going on there on 139, near the entrance and exit to Route 3. You've got the Taco Bell and Panera Bread, and you've got
this is
a
the
way to go to
Stop
Lowe's.
and Shop. Yeah,
all of that has a traffic flow. We looked at that when it was first proposed and said, you got to do something because this traffic flow is going to be a nightmare there. And they did. They went back. Our peer review identified some other ways to reroute on the site. I'm not talking about Route 139, but on the site, for instance, very important things like how's the drive-through window going to be accessed in a way that better facilitates safe traffic flow through the site. So those are the kind of things that we look at on the planning board with site plan review. That happened to be a very large project. A lot of times we'll get very small projects too, where we don't require so much because it's a smaller business. They're not going to have the type of volume that a Lowe's and a Panera and a Taco Bell will have. So, we can look at them as different projects with their scope.
But I've learned something new today, and that is your peer review or site review takes into account where the pickup windows are, and
yeah,
that's interesting.
Sure. Yeah,
Did you know that, Sue?
Yes. I pay attention during the meetings.
Well, I'm almost, most of the time the folks doing the application get it right. I mean, these are large companies.
Yeah.
This is one of, many, many locations that they have.
Of course, and they probably already...
And they're pretty expert at doing it right.
Yeah, yeah. But you still have impact. You have an involvement in that.
Yes.
That's really interesting. I was going to say the other time I didn't get involved, but the other time I spoke up was there was a development on Congress Street, 53 in Congress, and there was a lot of abutters who were complaining that, don't you know how many accidents occur on that junction? Again, fix the junction.
Yep.
Don't sort of hold up developing and progress. Fix the junction, which hasn't been fixed yet, but I'm sure it's getting...
Although you see at Plain and Lake Street, they've done some changes there in response to a project that was going to go in on, that was proposed for Plain and Lake. So that's another intersection that's problematic in town. Yeah.
Is that because of the school buses or?
No, that's because of the project that's proposed for Lake Street.
Oh, I know the project. Yeah. I know the project. Sue, do you want to talk about that? You can't talk about that project, can you?
Plain Street and Lake Street?
Yeah.
No, yes, I can. So that is, we received a comprehensive permit for 40B housing. It's 20 units. 25% of the units are considered affordable. Mm-hmm. They're hoping to start that project construction in March. And to Andy's point, that intersection is tough. There was a lot of butters who had concerns over the high amount of traffic accidents and so forth. So the DPW director has been working with Mass DOT to now it's going to be a four-way all stop at that intersection.
Good.
Just hoping to make it better for all residents in that area.
So why are Mass DOT getting involved? Is that not strictly a town issue, or is it because of, is it 27 that runs nearby?
No, I think it's strictly a town issue, but, Mass DOT is expert at how to design intersections.
It's not just put a stop sign up.
Yeah, they've done more than just that. I don't think they've put the stop sign up yet.
No, they're just in preparation, maybe trimming trees and so forth, just getting ready for it.
There's a lot involved.
Yes, there is.
It's not just putting up stop signs and drawing a white line on the...
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yes. Joe had to work with Mass DOT for quite some time, filling out paperwork and so forth prior to getting approval.
Mm-hmm.
There's sight lines involved and turning radiuses and all those things that one doesn't think of when they're stopping at a stop sign.
Right. I'll be corrected. So 40B, you mentioned 40B. What is a 40B? So, I know the answer, but people listening.
So it is, it's a 40B housing project. It's submitted to the zoning board. Generally, the applicant works with Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities first, and then once it's approved by them, then it comes to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Right, but what is a 40B?
It's affordable housing.
Affordable housing,
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we, as a town, we have to have a limit, is that correct?
Yes, up to 10%.
Are we there yet? Or?
We're a little over 9%.
A little over 9.
Yeah.
So we're not quite at the 10.
Yeah, I don't think we'll make the 10 with that project nor the other projects in the pipeline.
What other projects are in the pipeline?
Well, you've got a project,
Shepherds.
yes, in the center. So one of the things that's nice about two of these projects, one the project at Lake Street and the other the project in the center of town at the old funeral home, is all of those units will be rental units. So all of the units count towards our affordable housing inventory, not just the affordable units. And let's be very, very direct about what affordable units mean. So affordable is 80% of the average median income. The average median income in Pembroke for a family of two, I think, is around $140,000 a year. So you've got to be at 80% of $140,000 a year. We're not talking about subsidized housing. We're not talking about low-income housing. We're talking about housing for people who work in the community, live in the community, probably are in the service sector. They may be in public service. They may be your younger members of the police force and, firefighters. They may be the younger members of your public schools who are teaching, or people who are working in the public schools who are at that income level. So we're not talking about low-income housing. We're not talking about subsidized housing in any way. We're talking about making this housing available to a lot of people who are finding it very difficult to find it these days, not only based on affordability, but based on availability. And availability, I think, is a bigger problem than the affordability is. And let's also get it right on 40B. Sue did a great job at describing it, by the way. It is a comprehensive permit. And what that means is they come to you with the whole project pretty much permitted, and they don't have to follow your regular planning board rules and regulations. That doesn't mean they don't follow stormwater regulations. They do. That doesn't mean they can violate DEP or any conservation or any wetlands requirements. They still have to comply with all of that. It means that it's trying to speed along the process so that and that's why they call it a comprehensive permit. So once it gets to the ZBA, it's pretty much ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
sorry, can I just say, you brought up ZBA. Why would you need to go to the ZBA if it's following?
Because that's the authority having jurisdiction over the approval of comprehensive permits. So they get to approve the comprehensive permit. Sometimes they can add some conditions to that, but it's very narrowly defined by the state. So you really can't hold up. They don't want you to hold up a 40B application with lengthy public hearings, lengthy review. They want the town to be able to receive a comprehensive permit and for the applicant to be able to, have it shovels in the ground sooner rather than later. So it tries to speed up the bureaucratic process. And the requirement is 25% affordable. Now, the density issues, right? So if we only allow a single-family home on 40,000 square feet with 150 foot of frontage, someone could buy that single-family lot and proposed to put 8 units on it through a 40B.
Mm.
All right, so they're not constrained by the same things that a lot of other projects are constrained by.
And if we're beneath the 10%,
it's very hard to say no. If you're above the 10%, you can reject a 40B application.
right?
But the challenge is as you add units, right? We're talking about 25% of the units are affordable, right? But you're adding another 75% units. So you're every time you build a housing development, you're adding more housing stock to count the 10% against.
Yeah.
So, you're on a treadmill.
Yeah.
Our goal has been to be at 15% so we could be ahead of that treadmill. However, it's really hard to get there without a lot of projects coming in a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But we're finding that's happening anyway because the market's asking for it. So Sue didn't mention this, and she did a great job helping the planning board through the process of the master plan. And actually, just to talk a little bit about transparency and how it relates to that, the master plan was a citizens advisory committee under the auspices of the planning board that hired VHB, which is a consulting firm, to help us update and issue a new master plan. It had been 20 years since the prior master plan. The new master plan was finished in 2024. Sue helped during that process in managing the meetings and the information to the Citizens Committee. So we did have folks from the town get involved who aren't ordinarily involved with planning board issues and other issues that we deal with more frequently. However, they, being on a committee like that, it takes a little longer to do the process because you need the members to come up to speed on a lot of these issues, which they did, admirably. So we've got a new master plan. As part of that master plan, we identified where we sit with land use. So, the land use and open space, we've been great stewards of our open space in Pembroke. It's something that we should be very proud of. We've increased our open space by 30% in the last 20 years. So the 20 years of the prior master plan, we acquired 30% more land in open space. We lost land in business use by about 2 or 3%, and we only gained residential by about 4 or 5%. Not a big gain in that 20-year period, and that's why we have a housing crisis, by the way. We didn't see a lot of housing growth between 2004 and 2024. We just didn't. Mm-hmm. Now that we don't have...
We did see an increase in the, did you say?
Open space.
Open spaces.
Yes, a big increase.
Yeah.
Because we made the decision to do so.
So you hear, and I'll let you continue, but you do hear a lot of complaints that, we got to keep Pembroke the way it was. And we've actually grown our open spaces.
Yes.
So, whoever's responsible, I'm looking at the pair of you, you can...
Well, way more people than us. There's
a lot of
people in decision-making positions and town meeting. Town meeting has to allocate the money to purchase a lot of this open space, and town meeting did so. So,
so the town bought the open space?
Yes.
From individuals that owned?
Yes.
How about that?
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Over the past 20 years.
Wow.
So
it's actually in my lifetime, probably your lifetimes as well.
Yeah, well, Tubbs Meadow was one of those. And
oh, okay. Was that privately owned?
The windswept bogs, a lot of these were farms, cranberry farms.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So a lot of that land went into open space. So we don't have a lot of open land left to develop. So that was my point. My point is a single...
I think you've said before, because we've done a couple of events. It's 400 acres, is that correct?
Roughly, yes. Roughly 400 acres.
But that doesn't equate to 400 single family?
No, because you have to take into consideration infrastructure, roads, stormwater management, and you also have to take into consideration the fact that there's wetlands.
Yep.
Right? And so you can't build in a resource area. So all of that takes those 400 acres, and maybe you've got 200, maybe you got 300, maybe you got 150. I'm not sure. What that means is the effect of that is you're going to get more 40B applications because the value of the land goes up. right? So if you need 40,000 square foot and 150 foot of frontage to build a single family home, that's an acre.
Mm-hmm.
That's not very efficient. If you think about, density of housing, it's a lot of resources for one family. So 40B allows you to have more density on that lot. So it's kind of inevitable that the market is going to move there because the value of that land has gone up so much that to get more out of it, a developer needs to build more units. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. We need housing.
Mm-hmm.
We have a dearth of housing since 2008. And this is a nationwide issue. It's just not Pembroke. It's apparent in Pembroke, but it's not just Pembroke. We're so far behind on housing units, and that's why we have this terrible affordability issue with housing. I think it's going to get better. I mean, I think that the more broadly we think about housing options, the more units will come online, and the more supply means that prices should go down. We'll see, but that's generally how markets work.
I'm not sure it's a great idea for prices to go down. I think it's a good idea for them to be stable.
Well, if you bought low, yeah. I'm with you there. But there really is a need. I've got 5 kids. They're all grown now. My son owns his own home. My daughters are in the process of trying to do it now. It's a hurdle. I mean, it can be done, but it's way harder today than it was 25, 30 years ago.
No, I told a story on a previous podcast, and I can't remember what the subject was, but my mother, 20 years ago, my mother called me. She's still alive, God bless her. But she called me to say, we've just been offered £1 million for our home. And she was proud of this.
Yes.
She was super excited. Her home was worth £1 million. Now, at the time, she's got 4 children, and those 4 children have given her 11 grandchildren. And my instant reaction was, oh, great. So your offspring need to generate £15 million in order for every one of those offspring to live the same lifestyle that you live.
Hence the problem, right?
Yeah.
You see the problem quite starkly.
Like that.
That's a stark problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's £1 million 20 years ago.
Mm.
I mean, that's insane. And let me tell you, I know that I live on a property that, I mean, it's not worth £1 million. But in England, this proximity to a major airport, international airport, just there's no way. In fact, I'd be living on 1/3 of an acre for more than £1 million, by the way. But it would be 1/3 of an acre, and everyone would be looking at me going, "Oh, you've got some cash, haven't you?" Which is just insane. It's ridiculous. Sue.
Yes.
Do you live in town?
I do live in town. I've lived in town since I was 3 years old.
Wow. So what do you think of what we've been saying?
I think all this growth is good for the town.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of changes in the last few years, but it's good. We need growth. We need to see more businesses, more homes. To Andy's point, the next generation, it's hard for them to buy a home right now.
Yeah. And it's great to hear you say that, actually, because if you've lived here since you were 3, Andy, you haven't lived here all your life, have you?
No.
And I clearly haven't lived here all my life. But I've made this my home. This is the longest I've ever lived anywhere in my entire life. And yet I hear a lot of resistance based on, but you didn't know this place. This has changed, and we know. But you've been here all your life. Mm-hmm. And you're advocating for change. You're advocating for growth.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
We need change.
No,
it's hard at first, but yes, we need change.
We need more businesses. Speaking from a chamber perspective, we need more businesses, but those businesses are all asking for more affordable housing. And again, I am not promoting this idea of affordable housing. No, it's housing we can afford.
Well,
as a town.
We like to call it workforce housing.
Yes.
So, employers need a place for their employees to live, and it's always nice if they can live close to work. So I've lived in Pembroke for 30 years. All of my children were raised here, went through Pembroke public schools. My wife, Jenny, served on the school committee for 21 years. So, we've been very invested in the community. I can remember what it was like 30 years ago, and it was very nice. But I think it's as nice today as it was 30 years ago.
I think it's better.
Yeah.
I mean, the community centre in town, what Shepherds are planning, not Shepherds, Jim Bishop, Bristol's are planning for the Shepherds home.
Right.
I think it's going to be a major attraction for the town, and it's not going to significantly change the look or the feel of the town centre. It's going to improve the town centre.
I think it will. There's going to be enough change to the complexion of the town centre with a project that large, I think. But I think it's going to be a net good. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're getting a tavern and restaurant out of it, which I think is a wonderful thing. We need more of that in the town. Pembroke, if you look at it from its beginnings, was really an agrarian 18th century farming village, right? That's what we were. We weren't an industrial town like maybe Whitman with the shoe business or Rockland or Brockton. They had industry.
Weren't there a lot of weekend holiday homes around the
Yeah, it was also vacation homes around the ponds. Yeah. So it was, it was a destination for people to leave the city for a couple of weeks during the summer and relax by the pond. So it had a much more laid back kind of, I would say agrarian feel to it. And if you look at our town center, which I find really nice, I mean, it's got that look, right? You've got the church, you've got the community center now, which is a great anchor. Mm-hmm. And I think the design of that works in beautifully with the style surrounding it. You've got the Hatch Building there and the Historical Society, the Sewing Circle, the Town Hall. It's almost like a municipal campus there. That's very nice. And I think it's kind of pleasing to the eye. It looks like a small New England village.
Absolutely.
From the 18th century. So it's kind of charming in that way.
You drive through Sandwich or any of these.
And that's not going to change. I mean, that's going to stay that way. So, I think that's a valuable thing. When you do master plans, you have to take into account other things besides, the raw numbers. And, if you look at our little town center, I think it's quite charming and nice.
No, I 100% agree with you.
And the town does great stuff. I mean, and a lot of it is driven by volunteers. I mean, the Christmas tree lighting is always a terrific opportunity for people to get out and be with each other. That's coming up. The
farmers market.
Farmers market is just a terrific Saturday morning, kind of thing now.
The arts festival this year was amazing. Did you make it?
I did not.
And having the new community center makes that so great. I mean, they've always done a great job with the arts.
No, but
festival.
This focal point that we now have,
but now
Lance has done an incredible
having a facility
job.
like that just enhances it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes on in Pembroke and a lot of volunteer work. It's really that happens in a lot of towns, but I think Pembroke in particular has a lot of folks who care enough about the town to give their time.
Mm-hmm. Tends to be the same folks.
It's okay.
But I know what you're saying.
They're all pretty good folks.
Sue, tell me about ADUs. There's a new law that's just come out.
Yes. So accessory dwelling units are now allowed by right. Mm-hmm. So you can have one attached or detached 900 square feet additional home on your property. And it's a great opportunity, especially as parents are aging and, if they wanted to have their young adult children live there, in the main home or in the accessory dwelling units. So it used to be that you would have to go through the ZBA for a special permit. Now you don't. As long as you meet the guidelines, you just, you go to the building department and, go from there. But yes, it's it's allowed by right, which is pretty cool.
And I would imagine, so this is the first year that that's been available.
Correct.
By right.
By right.
By right.
Yes. Well, there's a couple of other things that this is the first year that they don't have to be attached.
Yeah, well, what I'm getting at is that I think that Pembroke's been ahead of the curve on a lot of these housing issues. Brian Van Riper, who served with me on the planning board, was pretty forward thinking about this. Brian's not with us anymore, but, he did have a huge impact on a lot of what we did on the planning board for years. He was a longtime member. And this was one of those things. So I have to say it's got to be at least 20 years ago that we adopted an in-law bylaw to our existing zoning bylaws. So we pretty much already had that law on the books in Pembroke through zoning bylaw. However, it had to be a blood relative. It could only be 800 square feet, and it had to be done by special permit. So when the state passed the new ADU law, we were ready to go. We just had to adjust the existing bylaw that we had. And a lot of that had to do with Brian's work. So, we're very blessed to have him be part of our planning board as long as we did.
And Sue, I don't know if you can share this information, but how successful do you think that change has been? I mean, what's the applications looking like? Are they up?
I don't know because they go through the building department now. So I don't know. The zoning board doesn't see them anymore. So I'm not sure.
Andy?
I would say that we're getting at least 1 to 2 a month. There was a lot of interest early on. Another great thing about this is a lot of folks complain that they can't sell their house because they can't find something affordable to replace it with.
Yeah.
Right? If you've got an empty nester,
Yeah.
if you will, even the smaller, something downsized is going to be almost as much as what they're going to be getting for the house that they're emptying. So we're not seeing a lot of movement in, existing subdivisions with house sales. We're not seeing a lot of inventory on the market because people just, they feel that they can't move. This gives people a great opportunity. You can, build an ADU on, if you're empty nesters, maybe you're going to reside in that ADU, and then maybe you could sell your home to your kids, or maybe you can, give it to your kids and get some younger people into the big house where they can have kids and, get on with life.
Yeah. I remember Mary Waldron, we had a conversation with her at one of the earlier forums, and she was telling us that's exactly what she would do, and she would move into the smaller house. I remember saying to her, give the smaller one to the kids. But
well, that's an opportunity too.
Well, yeah,
right?
Of course.
That's a great opportunity, especially if you want your kids to maybe save for a down payment or something like that. Maybe you can give them a break on the ADU for a year or 2 years until they get enough money accumulated for that down payment. So, it gives people options. And I think that's a really good thing and a really healthy thing.
No, I do too. I think it's terrific. And I think it's a big positive development for the town, for the state, but particularly for the town. I don't want to talk about MBTA, but we're expected to. What's happening with the MBTA 40B?
Well, we got a grant because we were one of the first communities to adopt the MBTA law, or 3A. We were eligible for grants. So we got a grant, and we're working with VHB on drafting and creating site plan review for an MBTA housing project so that the planning board is ready once we get one of these applications coming through. We haven't received an application to date. We've received interest in a project in the area that we've set aside for it.
Which is that area?
Corporate Park.
Okay.
So we've received some very strong interest. We haven't received an application yet, but we will be ready with to accept that application once it comes in. We just want to make sure that we understand what we can ask for. We want to understand what we can negotiate as part of an application. and the considerations we need to make. The other thing that we feel strongly about is getting every part of the town that's going to be affected by a project of that size on board ahead of time, asking for their requirements, asking for what they need before the application, hits Sue's desk or whoever's desk.
Yeah.
So that the water department, they understand the requirements of the water department. They understand the requirements of public safety, including fire. They understand the requirements of conservation. They understand the requirements of the planning board with what's going to be expected in a site plan application. So, we want folks on board. Remember, these projects, we talk about growth as if it's just a number of housing units and growth. This is real revenue growth for the town. Significant revenue growth for the town.
Needed.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I knock wood, we haven't had to ask for an override for a while, an operational override for town government or for the schools. But, budgets get tight. I've never seen a budget go down. We've had a tremendous impact. The budget's been impacted tremendously by inflation, insurance costs, health insurance costs, certainly, retirement costs. All of those things are pretty large burdens on town government and town budgets, and we're going to need growth to sustain them. We also may need more public safety people as a result of an increase in population in the town. There are standards and requirements based on population that may need to be addressed with people. So, we're going to really have a need for that revenue. And typically we get, 2-3% revenue growth every year out of growth. And we're going to need to continue to sustain that. And if we're not building, it's not happening.
Of course. So let's just make a couple of things clear, though, to anyone who's listening. We have not acquiesced to any strong tactics from the state. This was something that the town voted on.
Well, again, we had voted on it actually 4 years before. We had enacted and allowed by special permit multifamily housing in the industrial A and B zone and residential, multifamily residential specifically. So when the MBTA law passed, we were ready. We didn't need to change our bylaws by a lot to actually adopt it. So it seemed pointless to fight it at that point because we had already allowed it. And town meeting had voted for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, we voted for it again. I think some people feel a little bit of buyer's remorse over that because of the efforts of surrounding communities to kind of buck the trend. Marshfield doesn't want to do it. Duxbury did it. Halifax doesn't want to do it. Hanson doesn't want to do it. Those towns are faced with the same challenges Pembroke's faced with. They're faced with, a housing shortage. They're faced with growth being stunted, revenue growth being stunted through lack of development. They're going to have to reassess that at some point in time. And if you zone for it, it's not like this is going to take over your entire town. I do understand people's reluctance based on what they always say is they don't want to see the character of the town change. I don't know what that's code for, but we can only guess. I
can't imagine Corporate Park's character is going to change a great deal.
There's other aspects to that.
I understand.
That I won't get into. But, I think that there is real impact. I don't want to take lightly folks' concerns. There is impact. There could be impact to schools. There could be impact to public safety. There could be impact to water and resources. They're always going to be impacted.
But all of these things are studied by the town and accounted for by the town.
Yes. And
we don't need armchair specialists getting on social media saying, you haven't considered selling our water to Brockton.
Well, again, you can't expect...
Not that we sell anything to Brockton.
You can't expect everyone to know that, right?
No, I understand
They don't know that. But we do take those into consideration, and we have planned for growth. I mean... Sue's in the water department now. We've got a water superintendent who's doing a terrific job on infrastructure.
Seems like you're doing it all, Sue. It's all on your shoulders.
I mean, it's been great what they're doing with the new well that's going to be coming online and new storage facilities for water.
Which again, I saw. Oh, look, they're building a block of flats on Pleasant Street.
Yeah, no, that's
I know, it's a well.
It's a well, and the water mains being replaced, and we kicked the can down the road for a while on those projects. Now they're being done, which is, I think, a very good thing. We do have good water resources. We have great groundwater. Our surface water does go to Brockton and Abington, but that's surface water that costs millions to treat before you can actually deliver it.
Right.
Groundwater needs to be treated as well, but not to the extent that that surface water does. So we've got resources, and any development that comes in has got to prove itself out under the resources that we have available.
And I think it's also worth mentioning, in relation to the argument about the developments that could be coming up on Corporate Park, and that is one of the resources we don't have is town sewerage.
That's right.
And so any major development, housing development that's put up in Corporate Park, there's a water treatment issue. Is that correct?
Well, there's a septic issue, right?
Yeah.
So, but septic issues can be handled in several ways. There's individual septic systems for individual units, but there's also wastewater treatment plants. And for instance, the Lowe's and all of the North River Plaza has a water treatment plant that is on the Lowe's site.
And can that be tapped into?
No.
Okay.
It would have to be something completely separate.
Right. But that's an additional cost that developers have to take into consideration.
That's right.
So we're not low-hanging fruit.
No.
By any stretch.
Nope.
So I think it's important to make that, I want to make that clear to anyone who's listening. I've just seen the clock. We've been at this for just under an hour. Can you believe that? You do all the talking, Sue. So I think we actually have to wrap this up, but I don't want to wrap it up until the pair of you have had an opportunity to say if there's anything that was on your mind. And Sue, I know there were 101 subjects that were on your mind that you wanted to share with the residents. Is there anything you wanted to get off your chest that you haven't had an opportunity to say?
Yes.
Great. Let's hear it.
Stop listening to the rumors.
Oh,
Come
please.
in, talk to us, call us, go on the website, but stop listening to the rumors that are on Facebook. Andy and I probably have this conversation 2-3 times a week, like all the different rumors we've heard, whether it's the phone call or somebody coming in, or just ask us. We'll be more than happy to tell you.
And I've got to be honest with you, that's why I wanted you on the podcast, because you do have a lot of the answers. You are extremely approachable.
Thank you.
Why gossip at the water cooler? It's insane. So that's your message to
It is, yes.
Well done. Well said. Andy?
Yeah, I say the same thing. And, you have to be actively engaged with the community you live with and in. We can't go door to door, giving people the news. They've got to actively seek it out. And we provide it. I mean, we really do. I mean, the website provides a lot of information. The applications are right there for you to take a look at. And if you have concerns, there is a public hearing process to do that. This is one thing I really want to get across, is public hearings are for the applicant and the board. It's a business meeting to get an application through and considered and looked at seriously. That hearing is between the applicant and the board. It's not a public forum. The chair can allow for public comment, and the chair should do that because we do want to hear public comment. We do want to hear people's concerns. There is time ahead of a public hearing. We do the notices well ahead of time. The abutters are all notified within how many feet, Sue?
300.
300 feet. So
By registered mail.
by certified mail.
Certified mail.
So the abutters are notified ahead of a hearing. So if they have questions, they're more than welcome to come into the office and ask, or send an email, or make a phone call. We have no issue with getting questions. Sometimes they can't be answered because we still have some discovery that may happen as a part of the public hearing process. But the truth is, the public hearing process is there to do it transparently, and it's not a public forum for people to get up and say, I think you should do it this way. Mm-hmm. It is a good opportunity to get up and ask questions about the project and about the work before the board. Not about where Pembroke's going or how this project shouldn't happen because we have too many of them. Those are things that are really not for that forum. That public hearing is serious business. It's to get a project looked at seriously. And if the public has questions and the chair so allows, he or she will allow questions or public comment towards the end of that hearing.
Mm. I feel that's a message.
It's a message.
to the residents. I thought it was well delivered. Great. Well, like I said, that is all we have time for today. So I want to thank Sue and Andy for attending. Sue, I know you were very nervous about coming on, and I understand fully why you were nervous, but I do appreciate you coming.
That's because you couldn't get a word in edgewise.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I think the last point you made has a lot to do with Sue's nervousness. So, take that on board, listeners, about public hearings. Again, thank you for participating, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in. This podcast will be available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube with additional links on our Facebook page. Don't forget to like us on Facebook at the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce. And if you're interested in becoming a member of the Chamber, please go to the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce website, pembrokechamber.org. Sue, Andy, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for giving us the opportunity.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.